Hey guys, this is Steven at Team Covenant, joined by some familiar faces that you'll recognize, Zach and Robert over there. We're going to talk about the Game of Thrones chapter pack that just came out. It's what some would say maybe the best chapter pack that has ever been.
I wouldn't say that, but some would say that.
I said that
some
plenty
would say
of
that.
times.
So Zach, why don't you kick us off here, and let's just get rolling on this thing.
Cool. Well, the first card in the pack is the House Clegane Brigands. Brigands?
Brigands.
I would say Brigands.
Brigands. I always say words weird. Anyways, it's this pack's cool because each house gets basically a 2-icon army, 4 cost, 5 strength, and that's going to run across the pack for all of them. Army, House Clegane, War Crest, and it's got the response after you win an intrigue challenge, stand it. But you can't run an agenda, a standard agenda. You can only run a character agenda or no agenda to get that ability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a solid card if you don't want to run an agenda or if you have a really good character agenda, but I'm not a huge fan of the Lannister character agenda, so I don't see that ability really getting used. He's a solid army for 4 with a War Crest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a fancy ability if you happen to not be running an agenda. I just don't see that happening in Lannister.
I don't know, man.
I'll say this. I have a Lannister Warcrest deck, and this went right in there. It's a great card, with or without it, because Lannister is generally used to overpaying for a lot of their characters. So the fact that they got something that is undercosted per its strength, and it has a nice crest. It doesn't have any keywords, but that response is pretty juicy. My Warcrest deck doesn't run an agenda, so I get to use that. It's going to be a fantastic card.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a great ability. Anything that stands.
Trigger itself. It's nice.
The fact that it's on intrigue is a big deal too, because you usually want to do the intrigue first, then you stand it and you rock and roll.
It's a big old intrigue army, which the intrigue on the huge strength is always a good thing to see. It's kind of rare.
And I mean, just as a side note,
intriguing.
That art's pretty solid.
Very good.
They showed up suddenly.
Very good.
Surprise.
All right, moving on. Ooh.
Next we have sitting the Iron Throne. Small council event. It's House Lannister only, deathbound, any phase, pay 1 gold to choose a character to claim 1 power, limit 3 times per round, and then dominance. If you won dominance this phase, pay 1 gold to return sitting the Iron Throne from your dead pile to your hand. What? This is an amazing card because it's the first Lannister card that is recurring like that, deathbound. And more importantly, this is a small council event, and I've been waiting to make a sweet small council deck for a long time. They had 2 up until now, but now we have 3, tipping point. But the fact that you can essentially pay 1 gold to claim 1 power, I think is kind of retarded. I could see this maybe being restricted at some point in the future. I don't know. I'm just in love with this card, so I'm probably.
Can you give me the 10
I'm worried about it with Joffrey, man. I mean, it's just complete
exactly.
destruction of everything.
The Joffrey we're talking about is the Baratheon Lannister 1/2 cost, and whenever you play a small council event, you can pay 3 influence or kneel a noble character to return a character with 1 or more power on it to that player's hand. So it's essentially like Gaston Grey on steroids. That's crazy.
Discard.
It's discard.
Can you give, for those of us unknowing of the Lannister tech, give a 10-second overview of what a small council, what all that means? Small council.
Small council?
Yeah. Why is that important?
There are certain events that are small council traded, I guess you could say, and every house, with a few exceptions, has one. And then there's 1 neutral or 2 neutral ones, condemned by the council and question claim, I think. But now Lannister has 2 that are in-house, and I think it's the first house to maybe do that. But the fact that you can use their in-house Joffrey to start triggering small council effects to discard characters, as well as the effect on the event, is pretty potent because it has character discard control, location control built into these different effects. Plus, with this, it's accelerating your win condition, so it can get nasty in a hurry real quick. You just have to watch out for Joffrey getting enslaved or something like that, which is very possible because he only costs 2.
This card creates some difficulties mechanically for the game that I was talking, I think, to Matt about earlier in the week, about how you have a card that's going to the dead pile that has a limit on it, the number of times it could be used, which implies that there's a memory on the card, so that when you get it back, you can only use it 2 more times. But that's generally not how the game works. Once a card hits the discard pile, it's gone from the game's memory. So it's going to have to be errata, or something's going to have to be done with this, because otherwise that limit 3 times per round doesn't actually apply unless you have 3 of them in your hand, and you could only use, and even then it's kind of sketchy. So,
well, I mean, wouldn't the natural limit be 3?
It's
if you had 3 in your
exactly.
hand.
It's weird. So, like, if you get it back, technically right now, I think from the reasoning that's been going on, you can play it indefinitely. until they
Well,
fix that kind of thing.
Yikes.
And yeah, it's kind of one way or the other, right? Like they've ruled it in a certain way where things that go back to your hand or dead pile forget.
Yeah.
Right.
And in this case, if they forget, then you can
Then
pay a
who
whole
cares
bunch of
about
gold
the
and get a
limit,
whole
yeah.
lot of power.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot of that. I think this is a new deck right here.
But
basically.
yeah, just the fact that Lannister has another way to use their gold and more than just winning dominance is fantastic.
Let's move on to the Greyjoys, or the Raiders of Orkmont. It's their army for the pack. It is a raider, which is nice. Ambitious oarsmen and such will apply. 5 strength is nice for 4 cost. And of course, if you're not running the agenda, it gets after you win a military challenge. Look at the top 3 cards of the losing opponent's deck. Discard up to 2 of those cards and put the remaining cards back on the top of the deck in any order. So it's kind of a nice selective mill going on here. That can certainly come in handy with a lot of the Greyjoy discard effects that are already in play, whether it's Fishmongers or Corpse Lake, or even just activating Asha Alanis, the non-character cards, making sure, or just taking good cards away from your opponent, which is always a good idea. I don't know. I'm not sold on the character agenda for Greyjoy yet. I don't know that...
What's the ability? Do you know?
Yeah, you draw 2 cards when you save a Greyjoy with Aeron Dampier. The problem is he's a 3-cost character, 2 great icons, stealth, and when he's on the board, he's usually one of your best characters on the board. So you lose that military challenge, you're like, I'm going to lose a whole lot of board position just to potentially get 2 cards in the future. Then I've got to save, which is not as cool as it used to be. So maybe in a no agenda, but right now Raiders just love House of Dreams, I think, for either of those long ships. I don't know. I think this is more of a mill card than a Raider card, to be honest. But it's good. It's got the War Crest, and it's solid. Does its job.
Cool. Well, the next is a unique Greyjoy location, Deepwood
Mott. I think it's Mott, yeah.
Yes. Basically, kneel it, discard 3 cards. Any opponent can discard a power to cancel it. If there are 2 more non-characters, you can choose and stand a character.
Yeah.
Obviously, challenges phase, standing stuff is always a big deal.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of reasons you want cards stood. I'm picturing like Wintertime Marauders that I don't really like standing over and over again. Anyways, what are your thoughts as a Greyjoy player on this?
It's certainly interesting. I think it's cool that it's the North. I mean, there's another the North location that can potentially be, manipulated with. I think Mance is about the only thing that does stuff with the North right now, but I could see that changing in the future. Again, it's more mill. If nothing else, it's a 2-cost unique location that discards power from your opponent's house card every turn. Your likelihood of seeing 2 non-character cards out of 3 in most decks is fairly low, I would say. I think usually half the deck is usually characters in your cards, so it's decent.
The average out of 3 cards would be 1.5, right? So it's like it's hit and miss. It's probably every other time.
Sometimes you'll hit it, sometimes you won't. It's a matter of whether they'll do it to cancel it or not. Again, going into the mill theme, it helps that a lot. I think things are just stacking up here. I wouldn't see more than a 1 or 2 of. Again, kind of House of Dreams, maybe, but it would have to do, I think, a little bit more than this in order to, because it has the cancel effect for the power. I don't think that this is worth doing. If it didn't have that, I think you would see some interesting, basically chance decks going on.
Well, I think too with the fact that it's being the North, there are already cards that play off of how many of those are in play, right? Not just Mance being able to manipulate them. So that's important. So moving on, this is actually kind of a controversial card, Robert.
Yeah, it was controversial for me.
So we're talking about seized here. It's a condition attachment attached to a non-unique, non-limited location. Take control of attached location and discard all other attachments attached to it. I think this is pretty good. I know that there's, like you said, a lot of debate about this one, just because there's a lot of restrictions. I mean, it has to be non-unique, it has to be non-limited. Hey, what's left after that that's worth your time? And frankly, I think a lot. If only for Pentoshi Manor, I think this card is worth it. But it's a little high costed at 2. That's generally a lot to pay for an attachment, especially with these kinds of limitations. But I think it's worth doing a little bit of research maybe to develop a list and see what all applies to this, because there are definitely some good locations that fit this criteria out there. But I don't know if anybody just has the offhand knowledge to say, oh man, these are all of those, and of course this is not worth it to pay 2 gold to try to get one of them.
I'm thinking of regionals. Every location that I was potentially worried about was unique. Whether it's Gas and Grey, all the dragon stuff, that's all unique. Even, the Lannister limited where they apply Pyromancer's Cash. You can't do anything about that. Can't remove those attachments with this card. It's a 2-cost attachment which can easily be removed because it's a condition. When it is removed, the location goes back to the other dude. I don't think this will see any play in a real Greyjoy deck. Not right now. Not until we see a whole lot of non-uniques starting to run things. Too limited.
My initial take on this, anytime I can control the opponent and take something from them, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
And just me thinking about, various decks that I've been running, even if you're taking like an Eastern Fiefdom, like...
Limited.
It is limited, isn't it?
Or King's Red.
Well, the 0-cost ones aren't, right?
Yeah, like you could take a Flea Bottom, you could take... you can't take...
Flea Bottom's unique.
Flea Bottom's unique. Street of Silk is unique.
The other streets aren't.
You could
though,
take
right?
a Shadow Black, for 2.
Yeah, not worth it.
They're also, there are a lot of non-unique locations. I think you'd be surprised, like the Marinese Fighting Pit that you get a standard dragon or character weapon attachment.
There are some of those that are coming up, but like the way I look at that, I'm paying 2 to take control of something that my deck probably isn't built around. So I'm not going to have dragons, and I'm probably not going to run weapon attachments. So these non-uniques are going to be way more useful to the decks that are built to run them than the dude who's taking them. So if it wasn't a removable condition, like if it was a permanent take control, then it'd be like, okay, I might pay 2 for that. But the fact that you can just drop out an attachment removal and make me waste 2 gold for nothing.
I have a feeling that this card is somewhat of a plant moving forward, where you can make some decently powerful non-unique locations. Even if you had to splash this, it's like if you have a location that answers your deck, that fits this criteria, then you can. This is the answer to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So the answer to the answer. I think it's called a response.
It'll get there maybe. Where are we? I'll do the Black Crown Knights here. This is the Baratheon army. It's a knight in its house Tyrell. We're seeing a lot of not negative traits on all these new cards, which is kind of cool. Pretty standard what you'd expect from Baratheon, but it has the after you win a power challenge in which it participated, discard a card from your hand to have it claim 2 power. I think this is massive for Baratheon. For the life of me, do not know what their character agenda does. I've never seen it in play. Does anybody remember?
Mm-mm.
That goes to show probably how good it is. I think it might involve Vigilant or something, but of all the Baratheon Rush decks I've seen, now we've got the Long Voyage that Bruno piloted, it's going to be hard to get these guys into a no agenda deck, and certainly a Baratheon no agenda deck is going to have a little trouble with having cards in their hand in the first place. So it's Supreme Acceleration, but this is it kind of plays to the thing that Damon was talking about, where it's like Red Queen's Faithful is a great card, but it doesn't play into what Baratheon normally likes to do. Argue with that as much as you will. This, again, is kind of the same thing. In order to make use out of this guy, you've kind of got to sacrifice a lot of the other things that you might want to do with your Baratheon deck, like draw cards and, draw cards. So run an agenda. We'll see. We'll see
It
definitely
it fits the theme, and it's a solid card for sure.
It's got the crest. It's
the question at this point is just what agenda are you willing to not run to get this ability? And I think at this point, I hope we see more character agendas.
I can't believe we don't know the Baratheon one. I mean, that means it's not. I'm
trying to think of even who the character is. And I can't even picture who it would be. Anyway, so it's a solid card. I think at some point we might see it if there are other character agendas or if something weird happens, but or if more cards come out that benefit from not running an agenda.
But let it be known, this is strong. 2 power strong.
It is strong. The next card is Dale Seaworth.
Hey, Dale.
3-cost unique, obviously. 2 icons. Joust. When he comes into play, you can return a Baratheon card from your discard pile to your hand.
Yeah.
That's solid. I mean, he's an okay character.
He's not even really okay. Joust with 2 strength is kind of a waste of time.
Well, I think the interesting part here is there are some janky decks that float around. Specifically, Baratheon decks. So if you run a Maester deck that kind of decked your opponent by turn 3 or something.
I don't know who would do that.
Anyways, if you have cards that because this isn't even just characters, right? Meld schemes let you play characters from your discard pile.
How about Seat of Power?
This is anything. So you can grab Seat of Power. You can grab any of their.
I think that's where this is. Yeah.
You can grab lots of good stuff with this. So I think it's a tool.
He's not good enough himself, but what he can do for you.
Yeah, even just Narrow Seas. Getting Narrow Seas back makes him cost 1.
Yeah. In certain decks, he's I think he could be really good.
And that's probably why he's costed the way he is for what he does. It's like, the potential of getting those economy cards back and reusing them is just too strong.
He's a captain, if maybe that comes into play later.
He's a captain.
That's right. All right, next up we have Shores of the Blackwater. It's King's Landing location. And it says, challenges. If you have won a challenge by 4 or more total strength this phase, kneel and discard Shores of the Blackwater from play to choose a character in your dead pile killed this phase. Return that character to your hand. What?
What if you could get that back with Dale?
What?
Right?
Yeah, this is. I mean,
you just can't kill Baratheons anymore.
I
It's
like
impossible.
I like that the Baratheons are getting exceptionally creepy.
Yeah.
Which is in line with really it's the untold story of the Baratheons is really creepy.
Oh, they're totally creepy.
Really bizarrely creepy. And we haven't really seen that in the game. Like the Asai are kind of weird looking, but they don't really do anything that creepy. You know, they just don't kneel and then they attack a lot.
Not anymore.
But yeah, now it's getting weird where it's like I thought I killed that dude over and over.
Hey, I'm back.
again,
Didn't I burn you alive?
Now more is on the way. So.
Absolutely. And again, what's interesting about Baratheon to me is I feel like they're kind of becoming that deck that can run the almost janky kind of stuff.
And
Where
this
it's
is a
like
good Maester card too, right? Like your dead Maester that you need.
absolutely.
Come
Or
back.
I mean, is it card? Any card? A character? Yeah, it's like so
Yep,
if they
character.
nightmares and then kill Barrack, if you're running Brotherhood out of this, it's like it's an option to get him back. Whereas
Everybody, yeah.
That's actually really, that's really good.
There's all kinds of just
So-
crucial cards that you want back if they ever die.
You can
so
take it with
it's
Siege
fantastic.
too, so boom.
and you can get it back with Dale, so you can get Barrack back like 3
This
times.
costs 0, by the way. Let's stress
It's
that.
true.
This
Yeah.
costs 0.
And
It's
it's
nuts.
non-unique.
What I was
Yeah.
gonna say, non-unique, good location. Look at that.
What?
You can take control of it and use it. Oh my God. I think there's something important to note here too is that it's a King's Landing location,
So you
which
draw.
makes me angry. No.
Yeah, there are a lot of anti-tar cards in this pack.
Well, King's Landing is not target; it's neutral. But
Yeah, but
the
Targ
fact that
likes
it's
to
King's
use it.
Landing is also interesting because it's a trait worth noting.
It is. Noted. All right, let's move on here to the Riders of Carhold. Pretty cool looking card. I like it. Little armored horses there. It is negative traded, which I guess I spoke too soon. Army, Trader, House Karstark, although Trader hasn't really been used as well as it probably will be in the future, knowing how traders are
You don't want to be a
generally-
trader.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean,
although
If
in
being
Game
an
of
ally
Thrones,
is bad, being a traitor.
everyone's kind of a
What?
traitor. So you can't run an agenda, so you can't run siege, you can't run knights. What can you do out of start? What is there? Theirs is the sorrowful man.
Yeah.
So I saw Alex use that pretty well at one point.
But then he dropped it like a bad habit.
He did for good reason, I think. After you win a
It's like he
military,
wasn't winning.
after you win a military challenge, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand. Otherwise, return to the top of your deck. Boom. This is just a Stark explosive weenie deck going on here, or just explosive. I mean, Stark card draw is always lackluster, so getting a card is nice.
Yeah, having any form of card draw in Stark I think is great, and they generally like running a lot of characters, more than average, I would think, anyway. So I thought this was pretty good. I mean, it does have that no agenda limitation, but
He's so good in siege.
yeah, well,
He
yeah,
would be.
It would be. It would probably
Trigger
be too good in
twice.
siege. Yeah.
But you know, if you're still stacking up epic battles and stuff, then you could potentially trigger this guy 2, 3, 4 times.
Yep.
He's got the War Crest, which is great since no quarter is now restricted down by the sword. I think is kind of in vogue once again, or maybe not, but I think so. But yeah, this is like a standard start card though. Like it's not. There's nothing fancy going on here.
I think my problem with this card is they have a lot of really good armies
Mm-hmm.
that if you run they just have good armies that kind of compete with this, and solid ability if you happen to be running no agenda or the character agenda makes a lot of sense. But
That's a good point,
otherwise,
yeah.
I don't really. It's like, oh, do you want this or do you want to pay for
Do
a
you want 2
northern
military
cavalry
agenda?
flank and
Yeah.
Mhm.
not kneel and get an extra It's I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just throwing it out there.
The only thing that I would say puts it over the hump, and I don't know this offhand, is that it does have a war crest. Not every army does have that, even within Stark. So maybe that is reason enough to run it over other things. But who knows? Who knows?
And
Not
again,
me.
we could be seeing some bomb character agendas coming down the pipe.
It's true, which I hope we do. That'd be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, moving on, passing the wall, House
Mhm.
Stark only.
Creepy.
Put a Night's Watch character into play from your hand, then draw a card. At the end of the phase, if that character is still in play, return it to your hand. It's something. You know what I'm hoping?
Night's Watch.
It's not good yet.
What I'm really hoping
It's
is
okay.
that
Jon
the
Snow.
Jon Snow art that we saw in that
Mhm.
card, and you can't see anything else.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's like Lord Commander Night's Watch dude, and all of a sudden this gets real.
And maybe as it comes into play effect,
That'd be great.
You throw him in, and he does something crazy. He comes out. You do it.
That
again.
would make this card real good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
House Stark only kind of disappoints me here. I guess it's for a reason, but I really want to put I don't know, Cotter Pike into play. It'd be fun. But I can't do it.
Well, I mean, couldn't you run Cotter Pike in a Stark deck?
That is
and
true.
then treaty
There's
with
no
the
penalty.
Isles.
You don't even need the treaty, do you? I don't think he's Greyjoy only.
Yeah,
Boom. Put him in there. So the Night's Watch deck maybe has gotten a little better.
Out of Stark.
Yeah. And also...
Which, hey, maybe the Night's Watch Stark deck, you don't run agendas.
But this card isn't going to save Night's Watch. They're going to need about 20 more cards.
But hey, every great thing has a humble beginning.
That's true.
Right?
And you do draw cards, so this is
slowly but surely.
kind of a card draw.
Oh, man.
That's great. Okay, next up we have Host of the Boneway, Martell Army.
This sounds Martell.
House Uller. If you are running agenda or not running an agenda or running a character agenda, it gains the following response. After you win an intrigue challenge, reveal the top card of your deck. If it was an event card, add it to your hand. Otherwise, return it to the top of your deck. I feel like this is okay at best, particularly for Martell, a house that doesn't really want for card draw, at least as we've seen in the meta over the last 6 months anyway. It's okay. I don't think that it really competes with any of their current builds in terms of them wanting to run an agenda, so it at least doesn't really interfere with that. However, it's like, how many events are Martell decks running? Yeah, they have some good ones, but is this the kind of conditional card draw that Martell wants? Yeah, it's decent cost, decent strength like all the others, but I don't think that ability is really something that would make a Martell player really be interested in running this.
Now, at least, fortunately, their character agenda does see play.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
So,
it's really good.
I mean, this is a solid 4-cost army with 2 icons and a Warcrest.
Mm-hmm.
No real negative traits.
House Uller.
House Uller could
We
be
haven't seen
negative.
any negative House Uller cards.
Discard a
So-
House Uller army.
Gotcha.
Just kidding. So I don't know. I mean, I see lots of decks that run Red Vengeance, Princess Plans.
Mm-hmm.
He calls it Thinking. They do that whole thing.
Running on the Sand is always
So
classic.
I mean, really, if I use this and I get a Westeros Bleeds or something, and it's like, oh, and I have 4, like, it makes you play different, right? And what's cool about kind of getting to reveal the event is that you know I have it. So a lot of times you'll see like Greyjoy would save and not attack because it's like, oh, they'll just save. But at the end of the day, you have to make them use their saves.
Yeah.
Because they'll run out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of cool because it's sort of a mental has a mental
it's
implication on
a
the
solid
game.
dude.
Yeah, it's
not
reasonable.
great,
It's
but-
not bad, but I think it's not as good as some of the others.
I agree.
But we got some bomb character agendas coming down the pipe.
Let's hope.
I'm certain. Going to Greenblood Vessel, a Martell warship. Man, what is up with that? It's a little riverboat, though.
Yeah, it's more like a raft.
Looks like a towboat, a little
With a little
tugboat.
house.
That's good.
Is that a canoe?
I'm glad that's how that
No,
is.
it's a total raft. It's
after-
like a gondola with those poles.
That's
Is this
hilarious.
Venice?
After an opponent declares a challenge against you, kneel Greenblood Vessel to choose a character you control. Till the end of the phase, that character gains an icon of your choice. The initial, and I was talking to Tim Rowe about this guy yesterday, actually, and he had some good things to say about it. A lot of people aren't digging this guy. The thing is, like, when you have To the Spears coming, and your opponent's going first, do they want to attack you whenever you have a Bicon with Renown? You know? Like, now it's Tricon with Renown, so that's additional power. Aryan, Martell, Claim Raiser, all of a sudden now she has, the military icon?
Mm-hmm.
That's scary. So there's certainly some ways to use this really effectively, and it's weird because if as Tim was saying, if your opponent drops to the Spears, as a Martell player, you win initiative almost all the time because it's your initiative. Now, do you want them to go first? Do you want you to go first? If you go first, you're activating these vessels. If they go first, they're stuck with their Vicons. So it does have potential. I think this is a good card, an interesting card, and one that will sneak up on people if they're not really understanding how it's working.
Well, I think it has a lot going for it just in the fact that it's 1 cost and non-unique.
Mm-hmm.
So throwing 1 or 2 on your deck probably won't hurt you, won't hurt your setup, and it just makes your opponent think before they attack, and it makes losing initiative the Martell way not as bad as typically losing initiative.
Yeah, and it makes, if your opponent declares a challenge, which is kind of new, it's like it's not even lose a challenge anymore. This is like if they try to attack you at all, you've got it. And you can pop an icon in to defend a challenge you might not otherwise be able to defend. So It's cool. I think it's tricky Martell business. It's fun.
I think any character that has even just vengeful and or renown is going to make that just the bee's knees.
Quentin deck. Here we go.
Yeah.
All uniques gain vengeful.
Solid. All right. Shores of the Summer Sea, 0 cost location, Dorne. Response: after you lose a challenge, kneel it to choose 2 cards in your discard pile. Shuffle those cards back into your deck.
What?
Again.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. This is excellent.
Tell me why.
Talking to Tim again. See if you can hit it, Robert.
Where's Tim when you need him?
Well, this is essentially a poor man's or even better man's Princess Plans, because that's an event that lets you pay for influence, get 4 cards out of your discard pile back into your hand. But this doesn't put them back in your hand; it puts them back into your deck. But if you have the card draw, this can be just as good. It's way cheaper to implement. And the fact that it's 0 cost, it's non-unique, it plays to theme. I think this is fantastic.
The main thing that this thing does is actually let you use your Princess Plans way better, because it's only the top 4 that you get with Princess Plans. So now all of a sudden,
now you get to choose
those events that were down farther than 4, you have access to. So you can put them back in. And it also screws up Baylor Blacktide, which has been a big thorn in Martell's side, because you can get those events back in your deck so you can play them again. So that's kind of my take on it, and it seems that is a really nice little bit of card there.
I mean, again, I think the 0 cost non-unique factor is huge here, because it's going to, if you draw it in your opening hand, you can play it. It's just going to make your draw better. And it keeps cards out of your discard pile that you don't want there.
The kind of incidental that I really like about this is the fact that it is 0 cost, and we're seeing a bunch of low-cost Martell things coming out here. It might tempt a lot of Martell players away from running Knights of the Hollow Hill, because it's like, man, if I can run all these cheap cards and just flood the board on setup, what's the real advantage long-term of running Knights of the Hollow Hill? Because this is crazy. It doesn't need influence, so you can kind of delay yourself a little bit with Princess Plans. I just love it. It's great.
Solid card.
Yep. All right. This is a big one.
This is a big one. I'll go ahead and hit this one.
Yeah. Please do.
The next card is Dothraki
Art is
Outrider.
Strange, by the way.
He looks like he's a Scot with all that blue paint.
It almost looks like a reboot.
Dude, he's an Outrider. That's what he is. 3 cost Dothraki, 2 icons. What we have here is the first Dothraki with stealth, which is fantastic, and more importantly,
it's a pretty big deal.
He gains renown during power challenges.
He's a real character here.
This is a real deal. We have a 3 cost non-unique character. Well, he's not the first Dothraki with stealth. He's the first non-unique Dothraki with stealth. The extra stealth here is fantastic. 2 icons. He has renown when you want him to have renown. This card's great.
This reminds me of the Iron Fleet captain for Greyjoy.
That's
Yeah, totally.
exactly what you want.
It really set the theme off and gave them a really solid drop to make their challenges efficient.
What if we see that for every big in-house trait? Like if we see this for Boltons or Klansmen or something like that,
and
that could be fantastic.
You've got to talk about Heir to the Iron Throne with this guy, right?
Yeah. What's funny is that just in the
Spoiler
past couple weeks before this came out, I was starting to look at a Dothraki Heir to the Iron Throne deck, and when I saw this card, I was just like,
hello.
Done.
Yeah.
And are you going to use long lances to stand them and just do renowned power challenges over and over?
Well, I mean, there's Targa has other options. They have Royal Favor. Pick a character that doesn't kneel to attack or defend during power challenges. It's like, whoops, that's crazy. Stealth. It's pretty absurd. So there's a lot of options here, and it's just a fantastic card. That's all we can really say about it.
It is a fantastic card. All right, next up. Braided Screamers. What?
What are they, girls?
That's crazy. Okay, so this is this is the Targaryen army as per all the other ones we've seen thus far. So you know the rules about the agendas and not. But it says response after you play a Dothraki character of cost 3 or more, search the top 5 cards of your deck for another Dothraki character, reveal it, add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. What?
This is the best one.
Yeah,
that's something.
This is fantastico.
That's something. So my brain is immediately going towards Griff. And it's like, can you make Dothraki and Griff work? And then I'm thinking, attachment recursion. Can they do anything cool with attachments? Oh, yeah, we have a location that stands guys with weapon attachments. They have lots of fantastic Dothraki-only weapon attachments.
It's an army that has not no attachments here.
Yeah.
This
Finally.
isn't not even revisiting Dothraki. This is giving breath to a new version of Dothraki.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a totally different direction
Scary, man.
than what I've been looking at, but that's great. I mean, you can go get a dupe. You could go get anything you wanted.
2 great Dothraki in one pack.
Refugee, I mean,
Woo.
I wasn't even... where did the Dothraki come from?
I don't
Like,
know,
it was
man.
just like, oh, more Dothraki cards.
They
That's
came in this
awesome.
chapter pack.
Right whenever dragons start actually happening, it's like, nope.
Oh god, this card.
They can't be outdone, can they?
All right, what is this? A unique Targaryen location, 0 cost, port at Slaver's Bay. It is the east. Marshalling.
It is the east.
Juliet is the Neil port at Slaver's Bay to lower the cost of the next attachment you play this phase by 1, but by 2 if it's out of house, essentially negating all out of house penalties for attachments for
This
target.
is crazy.
I'm sorry.
I have one word. Really, I have 2 words, but I have 1 word. Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Barricade of Targ now is just crazy
Taste for
good.
blood.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Anything you want, and they've always been the house of attachments, right?
Yeah.
Like attachment control, attachment recursion, search your deck, everything attachment. So this is a great card. I'm glad they made it
This is
unique
crazy.
because
Yeah,
it would have
if
just been
If it
off
was
this
unique.
planet.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful, like you said, that it's unique. I'm still a little upset that it's 0 cost. It's like, what is this? This is so good. You have to kneel it to use it. Are there any like stand other than the Hellholt Engineer that stand locations or anything like that?
Maesters.
Maesters can do it. Oh God, Maesters plus Barrack. What are we talking about here?
I don't
this
know.
Is that'll be the jankiest deck
Yeah,
ever.
even just this with Maesters could be ludicrous.
Ugh,
Because
Wow.
the Targ Maester build runs so many attachments anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of weird ones.
it's true.
Well, I'm gonna move on before I stare at that too much.
Oh man, I'm calling dibs on this one.
Yeah,
Get
go
on
for
it.
Okay, next up we have the one and the only Marjorie Tyrell.
Great art on
She's
that.
unique. Yeah, this art is fantastic. She's a lady. She's a queen. She's House Tyrell. What more could you want? But then she has all kinds of text, starting with, while any opponent controls a lady or queen character, Marjorie Tyrell gains melee. What? Shouldn't melee be capitalized, by the way? Anyway.
Probably.
And then also she has response. After Marjorie Tyrell is knelt as an attacker, choose and kneel a character controlled by the defending player. Then that character is participating in this challenge as a defender. Limit once per phase. This is bonkers. I know it's good. We all know this is good. But I saw this in play last night at our weekly Game of Thrones tournament, and it was better than I thought. This has control written all over it. Heaven forbid you have any reasonable amount of deadly in your deck as well, because then you can just essentially pull any character you want into a challenge. You're going to guarantee you kill somebody. It's great. Of course, it's a champion card. It would have to be this good. The only thing that's missing is a Noble Crest, but thank God it doesn't have it, because that would just be retarded.
I think, and Baratheon with all the dead pile recursion, it's kind of a thing you couldn't really get rid of if you wanted to.
The fact that it's a queen
good.
is nuts.
We might see some Red Wedding here in the near meta future.
How does a Targaryen player feel that there's another queen entering the meta?
You can just burn her, dude. It doesn't matter for Targ. It matters for all the other houses that have to play the real game.
Well, if you're not playing the Targ burn deck, there's a whole bunch of, like, if your opponent doesn't have a queen character,
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
do...
there's the cards that you're like, oh, there's no way they're going to have a queen. And then it's like, not only are they going to have a queen, they're going to have a queen that's going to wipe your face
I
on the
thought her
ground.
ability would shut off like all the others, but she just gets better if you
Yeah.
have a queen. So
Ugh.
she's the true queen, I guess.
She's a Tyrell. She's growing strong.
She's a queen.
That's a card that you're going to see for the next
Yeah.
year at least.
Oh, man, this is going in all my
That card's
Lannister
going to pop
decks.
up all the time.
Yeah.
No matter
How is
long
this
we
not
go.
an auto-include in every Baratheon and Lannister deck is really my question.
It
It's so
probably-
well
it has to
costed.
be, it has
It
to
is
be.
so well costed.
Did you see the
3
updated
gold.
FAQ?
Whew.
She's restricted.
Already.
She's actually banned. She's
banned.
Whoops. Too good. See ya.
I'll take this Blazewater Bay here because it's got the old Greyjoy crest on it. 0 cost, the north location. Marshalling, kneel, and discard to lower the cost of the next card you play this phase with a naval enhancement by 2. When I first saw this, I didn't think the discard thing was there. So it's 0 cost, good on setup, non-unique, 1 influence, which is it's actually really cool. I'm from a Greyjoy perspective. Even just having Windy potentially kneel twice to save is pretty cool. And there's a lot of those weird like kneel 1 influence to do stuff that you never see play in any house outside of like Martell and Targ, the influence houses. So we could have some use there. And then getting Victorian for 2, not a bad deal, really. I think this just makes both the decks that ran Black Cells probably the best anyway are just even better at doing it now. And cheers to that. That's good.
More power to him.
Yeah, it's going to be good for Black Sails. Next we have Blackwater Rush, a Lannister Targaryen card. It's really interesting how many Lannister Targ cards there have been. Anyway, so King's Landing location again, which in this case could be good because I could run it, but we'll get to the text before I make that decision. 0 cost challenges, kneel it to choose a character with a naval enhancement until the end of the phase that gains deadly.
Deadly with naval is pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, Robert and I were talking about this last night, and it is cool to be able to not only throw something into a challenge, but then also say, now it has deadly. I think what makes it most cool is they also have the location Balerion, the warship, that can actually, when you can ambush in, and they get the naval enhancement on their icon. So that's really surprise. So that's really when it gets surprising, when you can not only hop them into a challenge with deadly, but, I mean, obviously you have to have this on the board, and Balerion.
Sounds a little combo-y.
But, hey, I mean, things happen.
I just don't know if there are enough naval enhancement things
Not
to
yet.
warrant the slot for this. I mean, yeah,
Not yet.
Presently, probably not.
You get some more naval
Even
enhancement
with one or
things.
two in your deck. I don't know if this
but
is
is this
worth it
worth
quite
splashing
yet.
into like your typical Black Sails deck? Like, would Greyjoy or Stark? Refurbished Hawk makes this a 0 cost out of Greyjoy. Just saying.
Even
true.
not, it's 2.
Could be a thing.
It's true.
Could
be a
Finally,
thing.
Robert, what's this plot all about?
This is King's Landing Coup. By the way, love this art. This is that
This just
epic
looks
scene
like
where this is probably Eddard getting pwned by Littlefinger here.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And it's a 4/8/1, but it is a power struggle and city plot,
Nice.
which is totally cool. We're seeing a lot of these dual traded plots coming out now. But anyway, it reads, if you have no other city plots in your used pile, reveal the top card of your deck and add it to your hand every time you win a challenge as the defender. That's crazy.
I mean, it's quite interesting, isn't it?
The initiative is fantastic. The stats are fantastic altogether. But if this is a deck like, I don't know, could this go into like a
white
nice
book?
janky? Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Kingsguard deck with the white
Sir
book.
Arthur Dane, maybe?
Attack me now, why don't you?
It's weird because, like, at its best, I think it just shuts down a turn of challenges from your opponent, which is great, truly, because if they're going to lose the challenge, they're not going to attack. Or you put a bunch of surprise, like endless endurance and these weird strength buffs in. So, I mean, aside from that, a 4/8/1, like, why is that ever a problem? That's a good slot for a plot anyway.
I think the stat lines are great. It does give you a power struggle and a city plot in your used pile, and potentially a really useful ability. So it's definitely not like a plot you build a deck around, right? But
Right.
it's not a plot you don't want.
You're right. I can see this in my Greyjoy deck. to be
It's
honest
still
with you.
solid. It's still solid for sure, just because of stats.
Cool.
Yeah, the stats alone.
All right, well, that about wraps her up then, doesn't it? I think overall this pack offered a lot to most houses, and in a weird way, too. Like, not in a straightforward way as much as you might otherwise see. So I think it's, again, the meta is already wide open, and it seems to just continue to be opened up.
Yeah,
It's cool.
I'm really pleased with all these armies just because everybody has kind of the basic stat line, but then they have some interesting ability that is very particular and appropriate for the house. So it's like, man, that's tempting. Do I need to reassess what kind of decks I'm building? All that kind of stuff, just to maybe tease some players who are maybe in a rut of deck building, and it's like, oh man, I can branch out now because I have more options available to me.
Sure. I think this is a really well-rounded pack. I won't vote it as my favorite pack ever.
What? You should. It's the best pack ever.
No, it's really good. I think it brings a lot to the metagame and what you can use, and just a lot of really useful cards that make you look at some things you may not have looked at in a while.
For sure. So thanks, guys, for watching us here, going over this thing. If you want to support what we're doing, we do have all sorts of great stuff.
Including this pack.
House packs. We do have this chapter pack. If you just saw and you're like, man, I got to have that now, then it is available on our store, teamconan.com/store. And, of course, just come on over to the site, write a blog about it, write a comment about it, do whatever. We'd love to have you. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.